everyone. Welcome back to How We Cope. I have a very special guest with us today, David Grundman, who is a teacher at the Kabbalah Center. You guys have heard me talk about Kabbalah so much on this podcast. The Kabbalah Center is taking Kabbalah worldwide, and it's so beautiful. So, David, thank you for being with us today.
It's my pleasure. So happy to be here.
Let's just kind of get into it. So, tell us, what is Kabbalah? What are the general teachings of it, and how can it help someone, really elevate in their life?
So I think that when we start off in life, we get a lot of guidance and direction on how to become successful, what the normal career trajectory looks like, what it would mean to be a good citizen of this world. And all those are kind of the physical upbringings. From a Kabbalistic point of view, there's so much more than what meets the eye. One of the basic Kabbalistic teachings is that everything that exists in a physical level has an essence, whether it's a tree or a person, and it's not always readily available to be seen by the eye. And so Kabbalah is the wisdom that studies the energy and the essence of everything that exists in this world, and helping us to kind of create a roadmap of what are we here for? Why are we in this planet? Why are we surrounded by the people we're surrounded by? And so it really helps you to really get in touch with your soul and find out what you came to this world to do on a deeper level.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I was just reading something that was talking about how, when you go on social media, there's all these posts about how to be with your body, how to feed your body. But there's not so much talk about how to be with your soul.
Yes.
And that's something that I actually feel like as a therapist was the missing piece in my work. Was I was working with so many people, and we would get like a little bit better, but there was a very core void. And I now know that it was the soul work that was missing. And we've talked about this before, but my story in coming to Kabbalah was from a really big and deep place of darkness, which was my sister died, I went through a breakup, and my dog died, all between 3 months of each other. And I remember feeling like the Creator was punishing me. Like, I was like, this is a punishment. I must have done something in my life to have received death around me and endings around me. And so my relationship with my religion and my relationship with spirituality was one that felt really dark. And over time, as I started to do a lot of my own healing and manifestation, I was like, I need something. And so I walked into the Kabbalah Center. And when I walked into the Kabbalah Center, I met your brother, Yosef. And it was the first time that I felt like God, the Creator, wants me to feel light and abundance. And with those who are listening to the podcast, you have heard my story that with 3 months of my sister passing away, I met my husband who lost his brother, and we got engaged 8 months after. So it's always this arc of light for me where I'm like, how did this moment of pure darkness, lack of faith, all these things come into something that was so clear that God was there? And so I say that because I think a lot of people, when they hear Kabbalah, they're wondering, how can this help me? Or what is the perspective when it comes to these challenges in our lives?
So I think that kind of takes us to the core Kabbalistic teaching, which is there's one force that created all that is, and that force is known as the light. And that force, its only intention and its only desire is to do good, is to share, is to elevate. And in order to share, as we know in this world, if you want to give love, you have to give it to someone. And so that force, in order to share, needed to create an opposite force that can receive all the love and the goodness and the blessings that it wanted to share. And so a vessel was created. And Kabbalah explains that everybody in this world is a vessel, is a desire for more, light, fulfillment, goodness, blessings, soulmate. And so that desire is how we wake up every day. It's what drives us. It's what moves us through this world. So when you look at it as those are the two primary forces that govern our world, there's the force of the light, which its only desire is to bring goodness and blessings into the world. And we're going to talk about challenges in a second, because if the only desire of the force is to do good, how come the world is in pain? How come I have challenges? How come I could lose someone that's so close to me? How come there are breakups? But it starts with this kind of fundamental understanding that there are two forces, the force of good that wants to share and the force that is known as all of us that want to receive all the goodness. Yeah. And I think that's also a big differentiation between Kabbalah and other modalities. Kabbalah would stress and focus that receiving is our birthright. It's who we are. It's what we were meant to do. Whereas other modalities will say your desire is dangerous. It can cause you to get ego and move away from your life's purpose. So just
so much sin,
punishment. Also punishment. What's punishment? Yeah. Punishment is the thought of I wanted something that I shouldn't have wanted. I took it, I grabbed it, and now I'm being punished for it. And that's not the nature of the relationship between the light and the vessel. And oftentimes some things that can be the most challenging for people are what help them to experience their first awakening. Totally. Right? It's a door. It's a pathway into seeing the world in a whole new way. I mean, I had a student that I work with that really built himself a lucrative career as an auditor and was very, very successful at it. And one day he got a call after he built his life and his abundance and his lifestyle around that kind of identity that they were cutting back some of the jobs, and he was no longer going to be employed by that company. And he already had bills. He already had a family, already had expensive home, expensive cars. And he said, this is the worst possible punishment. How could the light, the source of all good, God, be doing this to me? And somewhere around that time, he found Kabbalah, and he realized that every challenge was an opportunity for a new level of experience in this world. And he said, you know what? I have two options. I can either see this as the biggest punishment in the world, be a victim, be held back by it, and actually have a good reason to blame everybody. Or I can see how this is setting me up for something bigger. And as he had that thought, and he came to me after class and told me that this is what he got from Kabbalah, he's like, I realized that I was limited just taking from my company and living a life that was just taking. I realized that as someone that knows how to audit and being the scary wolf in the room, whenever you get a knock on a door and I show up, I'm the big bad wolf. So I'm going to go to companies proactively and say, hey, I know what auditors are looking for. So I'm going to come and protect you from auditors. Mm-hmm. And so he created a business and now employs 50 people that he continues to share Kabbalistic wisdom with and gives them books from Kabbalah Center. And he's elevating their consciousness while protecting people from the old version of himself. Yeah. And he went from such a small life where it was about him and about his happiness and his success to still being happy and successful, but having purpose, leading people. And he realized that that challenge was really the bridge for him to step into a whole new role and actually opened the door to the wisdom of Kabbalah for him, because he didn't want to believe in a punishing force.
Yeah. Do you feel like giving, we talk so much about giving in Kabbalah, giving for the sake of giving. Do you feel like that's a tool to open our vessel? Like if someone's vessel, let's say, doesn't have so much room to expand, what are the tools that can actually help them do that? Like in the example that you talked about, or what I have seen in my life is in the times where my ego wants to take over so badly. For example, when my sister passed away, I went through the breakup and all these things. I had so many people around me getting married all of a sudden. And I was still in the depth of my grief. And I challenged myself. I was like, I'm going to give celebration. I'm going to give happiness. I'm going to give everything that feels so hard for me right now. And I really noticed something change. I don't think it was until I was able to do that I ended up meeting my husband. So I'm curious, what do you feel like what is the true meaning of giving for the sake of giving?
So there's a beautiful teaching by Rav Ashlag, who's the founder of the Kabbalah Center in 1922.
Wow.
Before Kabbalah was popular, actually, when it was a big problem to be teaching Kabbalah. Mm-hmm. He teaches that there are two natures. The nature that we come into this world with, which is, let's say a child wants to eat, wants to take care of itself, wants a lollipop, right? It wants to receive. It becomes this vacuum, which is actually a good thing. It's good that because in those years, you're meant to be building your desire to receive. But when a person overcomes that nature, and one of the ways to do that is by challenging yourself to share in uncomfortable moments. Mm-hmm. But Rav Ashlag explains something beautiful is we don't know the true power of our soul. We don't know the people we were meant to influence and transform with a smile or with a phone call or a text message in the morning. We don't know the great power we have. I wouldn't be shocked if many of our listeners are saying, I don't even relate to what he's saying. I can't get through the day, let alone be a big channel for the world. And it's supposed to be that way. But Rav Ashlag explains that when a person makes an effort in their life to rise above their desire to take care of their self, right? Only fill their own vessel and make an effort, an active effort in moments of discomfort, in moments of challenge to show up as a giver, to show up with a smile on my face, to show up and say, how can I add light into this room? How can I elevate the people in this room? They receive a gift. Mm. And that gift is additional second nature, which we don't have access to until we move through the first nature, which is the nature of our soul. We have that duality within us. Every part of us wants to wake up and do good in the world. Nobody wakes up as a child and says, I want to hurt. Right. Our nature and our soul is good, but we come into a body that needs sustenance to receive sustenance. So we have those two forces within us. And so when we share, what we do is we do the work on the first nature. That is, how can I receive? And I start to activate and call in that second nature, which is unnatural to our body, but is truly natural with who we are. And then the miracles happen. Then the gate opens up where, the biggest challenge, which was the losing of your sister, was the biggest bridge between you and your husband. Yeah. And whereas it takes people 10 years to figure out, is this the right person? You knew very clearly that there was a soul connection. There was something bigger than this world, which, gave you a lot of clarity that doesn't matter. Time is an illusion. We were meant to be together. Let's not wait.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so funny because I felt delusional that day. And my advice to people too, I mean, it doesn't sound like a spiritual practice to say, but I'm like, be delusional. Be delusional in the sense that you don't have to see something to believe it, right? It's there. And on that day, I was like texting my best friends, which I've never talked like this in my life. I'm like, I met my husband. They're like, Nicole, what are you talking about? I'm like, I met my husband. And we got engaged 8 months after, and everything was so clear for the first time in my life. I've never been grateful for heartbreak. And I think that's where gratitude and appreciation is something I also really love about, when I come to the Kabbalah Center, is that we talk about it so much, is that effort, we have to appreciate the effort. And we actually think that we do things. I mean, you were just talking about this before we started the podcast. Like, we think that we do things because we're going to get a reward, meaning effort would mean there's a reward.
Right.
But then there's this other part of it that is the gift. And I want to talk a lot more about this unconditional relationship of appreciation for the gifts. And maybe you can kind of touch on what we were just talking about, of what happens when we start to view effort in terms of getting a reward.
I want to just touch upon what you said earlier, because I think there's something so beautiful. Hindsight always shows us the truth. Mm. And when you shared that in the midst of the darkness, it felt like a punishment.
Yeah.
It felt like a punishment. And you can use those words felt because you've been through the experience of it and you're on the other side. And that shows you that it actually really wasn't a punishment. You can look at those breakups and say they were gifts. So it's beautiful because you asked about, I always felt that there was, a punishing force in religion. That's a big prominent, theme is that if you do good, you'll get good, right? Back to that conversation about reward. But I think it's important that we for ourselves challenge it, and everybody that's listening right now to think of a moment where you looked at your life and believed truly that I was being punished. But 5 years later, I look back and I actually say that challenge was the biggest gift. So that means that even though for a temporary period in my life, I felt that was a punishment. For me now, I realized that challenge was really the opening to my biggest blessing and my biggest gift. And so that really hits home the point that even the challenges, that light force that wants us to have all good, are there to help us to remove certain filters that are blocking us from not the good that I want now, but from the good that I was meant to have.
Yeah.
And that's such a different view of it. And so the next time, quite practically, the next time you go through a challenge, you remind yourself, in 5 years from now, I may see this as a blessing. So I don't want to say that it's punishment. Yes, it's difficult. Yes, I need to deal with it. Yes, I need to feel the pain, because that's part of how we uncover the lesson in what this challenge is trying to bring to us. But when we think it's a punishment, there's really no room for the light. There's really no room to get out of that darkness. It really requires some sort of a miracle. And so just really, really practically, when you go through a punishment, say, I don't want to label this a punishment. I want to say this is something I don't see the light in right now, but I know that there's something here that's going to help me to expand and be who it is I'm meant to be. And just to touch on what you asked about appreciation, because it is arguably one of the most important teachings in Kabbalah.
Yeah.
Because if we don't see the light in
everywhere,
the blessing,
yeah,
it can no longer give to us. And so Michael and Monica, who are the directors of the Kabbalah Center now, they shared often one of the first things to go in a relationship is appreciation. And the counterforce to appreciation is judgment. And so when you start judging your partner, your friend, your spouse, you're not their light is still fully available. The love that you experienced on your first day of marriage is still existing within you and within them. But every time you judge and every time you see what's bad about them, you're covering it. You're covering it. You're covering it. And anytime you have a deep, intimate, vulnerable conversation, you remove those layers. And even though the conversation started out as a fight, it ends with, wow, I'm so happy. How often I'm so happy we spoke about that. Why?
Yeah.
Because what you rekindled in that moment is the love that existed under the chuppah, under the canopy. So it's so important, and it directly influences how happy we are. When we're judging and we're not appreciating, we walk around with a frown on our face. We feel tight. Our body literally, physically, viscerally gets tense. When we're appreciative, I remember one time, New York is a crazy city to live. I just moved to LA. And there's so many things that are constantly, quote unquote, going wrong, but outside of your plan. And I remember I just signed up for a gym and I started, using the ice bath. And just sitting in there for 3 minutes and 5 minutes and 10 minutes. And that challenge to break your body for 5 minutes. When I came out, I just walked out and I was telling my wife, I'm like, wow, New York is so beautiful. Like nothing changed. I just went through that kind of challenge of putting my body under a stressful situation. I'm sure endorphins were released and I walked out, and everything that I would see as challenging, everything that, oh my God, I'm late. The cars are beeping. It's so annoying. Everything that I saw as challenging was so beautiful. And I saw the spark of light in it. And I'm like, wow, it's incredible. It's just a much, much better way to live. And it's easier said than done.
For sure. And I think that's what people kind of come into when they're in Kabbalah sometimes. They're like, how am I supposed to do that? Like this sucks. I just want to sit in the fact that this sucks. And so I think there's like a thin line sometimes between what is allowing us to feel what we need to feel versus feeling or being in the place of, I don't really love using this word, but, feeling like a victim, feeling like we are the one that's punished. Where is the thin line of, some people hear appreciation and they're like, well, I don't want to deny my feelings. So have you noticed working with people or in your personal life of how Kabbalah can kind of hold both, this container of, we can feel sadness and heartbreak and all the things that naturally come with life, while also, and then that's where I want you to come in, like, what is that missing piece for a lot of people that are going through what they would call a time of darkness or challenge?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think what all of us need, myself included, in the moments of darkness, what is that kind of mantra that can carry us through? And I think, it goes back to the other way to expand your vessel, to be able to receive more from life, is to realize that challenges are really opportunities. Because at a fundamental level, if you believe that life is random and that there's a punishing force, the experience of the challenge will prove that. It will continue to justify the punishing force.
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah. So if we don't, at a core level, and this is something we all need to do for ourselves, it's actually one of the only things that Kabbalah doesn't prove, is that the light is good. It's something it's a choice for us to make.
To view it that it's a choice to view the light as only being good.
Yes, right. Because if you think about it, that's the first Kabbalistic teaching is the light is a force of goodness and sharing. Yeah. And because it wanted to share, a vessel was created. But the only axiom in Kabbalah, the only thing that can't be proven, because everything in Kabbalah is experienced as a metaphor for what we're going through in this life. The only thing that can't be proven, that has to be chosen by us, is that there is a force that is ruling this world, and that force is all good. Mm-hmm. And so when we come to viewing our life, there are only two ways to view it. One is there's a force that's all good, and everything that is happening in my life, good and bad, is leading me back to that force, which is all good. Or life is random. This shouldn't have happened. That person is out to get me. If I could just prove that they have bad intentions, then I will be happier. If I could just prove that I am worthy of that person's love, then I will be happier. And if this situation didn't exist, then I would be happy. Those are the only two ways to view life.
So would you say that someone's life is able to change based on the difference between those views? Meaning they could have the same challenge, but if one is disconnected from source, and the other person is connected to source, they will have a different outcome?
Of course. And I think, there's a beautiful book that's written about the Holocaust, A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. And he shared that through the utter darkness that was experienced by everybody at that time, Jews and non-Jews alike, hate, death, war, starvation, through the utter darkness, the ones that had hope, had faith, had trust that there was a system and that they will get through this, are the ones that were able to persevere through all the darkness and all the challenge, much more than those that believed that this was random. And if the circumstances would be changed, I would be different. So there's something so powerful about believing in that system and believing in that force known as the light. So I would say for anybody going through a challenge right now, and by the way, Kabbalah is not a life hack that prevents, just going back to what you said about reward and punishment. When you start studying Kabbalah, you start aligning yourself with your soul. You start becoming more and more like the light of the Creator. That doesn't mean you are absolved from all challenges. Absolutely. Challenges are a part of how we grow our vessel and change into the soul that we're meant to be. When we see challenges as the road to becoming who we're meant to be, versus the universe is out to get me, that's when we receive that additional support that we spoke about, the support of our soul, that whisper. By the way, it doesn't come loudly. You lose your job, it doesn't come loudly. Wow, best thing that ever happened. And it never will. Doesn't matter how much Kabbalah you study, but there'll be something deep down that's awakened within you when you start to subscribe to there is something that's overruling this universe and that force only wants good for me. This seems like a punishment, but I don't believe it is. When we create space for that, the lower voice of the soul starts to become louder and louder and louder, and it becomes our teammate in the game of life.
Yeah, and I think just on a psychological level, I mean, if you imagine the power of having that mindset of feeling like there's this protective light over you that holds you and is almost like the ideal parent, right? So the parent, your parent is not always going to be perfect and good, but they will always love you. The intention of an ideal person like that would be to always hold light for you. And so I think what's really interesting too is what I've seen in my work with my clients has been that the more that they can feel connected to source or to the creator, the more that they feel empowered by the challenges, like you're saying. But when I speak to people sometimes that are going through something and it feels random, which I love that wording of it feeling random, because there's a disconnect there. I think, and I'm speaking more from how I conduct things, but I think that's where I see a lot of ego seep in, is I think ego is really rooted in this is happening to me. I am the victim, I'm being punished. And so when we come from a place of ego, we're not really creating space for the blessing to come.
And I think that's an important point that you mentioned ego, because random and ego are synonymous. When you believe that life is difficult, life is challenging, this is only happening to me, how come I'm such a good person and it doesn't happen to these people, which I know aren't good, and we get into that comparing mentality, look at the subject of the conversation in your head. What's the subject? It's me.
Yeah.
It's I. And in that moment, we're completely cut off from source. We're not, there's a plan and I'm a part of it. It's how come this is happening to me? And I was even thinking about it, I just had my second child, and
congratulations.
Thank you. Parenting really changes your view of, talk about a challenge, opening a doorway to a new view of bad about how much I'm doing and how little time I have right now to spend with my daughter. And in my head, I was, oh my God, I'm such a bad dad. And I realized it's the subject of the conversation in my head. How do I know that it's ego? The subject of the conversation in my head is I'm a bad dad. I'm not, what does my daughter need? Let me think about how to be there for her. How do I make the most out of our time together? The conversation is, I don't want to be bad. Yeah. And so that completely disconnects me from source, because in her life, I won't be her only source. There are going to be many people that teach her and guide her and lead her. I'm the main one. But if I want to be there for her in every given moment, I will actually cut out her relationship with source and I will become her source. And then
I love that. Wow.
And so it's just, I mean, there's so much there, but it's the conversation about ego, knowing anytime that you're in that space of you're no longer in that kind of divine plan. And that's just a quick reminder. What's the subject of the conversation in my head? Is it me? Why is this happening to me? Because that also feels good. And the ego's primary role is to prevent you from getting back to that endless connection to the creator, the biggest version of you, the you that is shining in its fullest. The ego's role is, don't do that. The world doesn't need you. Your voice is too strong. You should tone yourself down. People don't want to hear what you have to say. And all the subject is about me. It's not about people. It's not about what if there's one person that's going to be changed by this podcast. It's about, I don't want to look stupid. And so the ego will always keep you isolated and insular from the creator, from your friends, from your family. And its role is to make sure you don't reveal your light. So if you can just remind yourself, like another practical tool is think, what's the subject of the conversation in my head? If it's me, it's ego.
Wow. That's a beautiful tool. A beautiful, beautiful tool. I think everyone can relate to, and it's so easy to catch ourselves on, is when is the conversation about me? I really love that, because so much of what I feel like is a good practice for me and what I have learned from Kabbalah is be like the creator. And we talk about how the creator is such a giving force. And so if we're constantly in a place of the me, which I think especially is kind of trendy right now, of being in the me. And I know a lot of therapists are also kind of struggling with this. They're like, what are we pushing too much on the I versus like, what is the difference between being able to hold ourselves and have space for ourselves in the way that you're saying, which is I have to go to work. Because if I go to work, I'm not actually stopping my daughter from having light. I'm giving her opportunity to find her own connection to source and her own connection to light. And I think that's so beautiful. I think we all have to do that sometimes, and being able to know that we're also not the fixer of everything, right? We can take the step back. We can allow our soul to actually come forward, and our soul is abundant, and our soul wants endless light, not just for ourselves, but for everyone. And so I think that's a really, really powerful tool, is to ask ourselves, the conversation that I'm having with myself, who is it about? And what needs to shift there? And I really feel like for the people that are listening, that just that tool alone can create a very, very different amount of blessings to walk into your life.
Definitely.
And on that subject too, can you quickly kind of tell us about Klipo? How would you define it, and where does it fit into this conversation?
Yeah, Klipot is one of the fundamental teachings in Kabbalah. It was introduced by Rabbi Isaac Luria around 500 years ago. And he said that Klipot is literally translated as a shell. Mm. So if there's an orange, the shell of that orange conceals its goodness. In order for you to reveal its goodness, you need to peel the shell back. And it reveals a beautiful teaching in Kabbalah, which is we are all inherently light. Mm. Our soul, which is connected to the creator and source at all times, is endless. It has the solution to all problems. It knows exactly how you're going to get through this challenge and transform it into an opportunity. It even knows what the perfected version of you looks like right now. But why don't we have access to it? It's because in the moments when we act with ego, which is very simply defined as moments when we are not like the creator, when we become the subject, we block our soul. We add another shell. Just like if there was a lamp and we put napkins on top of it, the light of the lamp, the light of the bulb would not dim. It's still shining in its fullest brilliance, but the more napkins you put on top, the darker the room becomes, the darker the experience becomes. And so why challenges, going back to our what we spoke about in the beginning, why challenges are really a gift from the creator, is because every time we experience that pain, every time we don't have the solution on how to make it through, what the Kabbalists explain is that a shell or a klipot or a napkin is being removed, which is why usually after those challenges, we have big, huge aha moments about life, about love, about what our purpose is in this world. Where did it come from? It was there the whole time, but it was covered by the napkin. And so that challenge the way that you view life, that challenge broke a shell. Yeah. And now you see the world more like your essence and less like your ego. Yeah.
There's a concept in psychodynamic theory, which is the modality I usually do therapy from, that talks about defense mechanisms and how defense mechanisms are our form of protecting our ego. And as you were talking, I'm like, oh, I can totally see that a type of klipot would be a defense mechanism. What we do in order to protect the ego, which is then kind of hiding our soul.
Yes.
Like the true essence of who we are and who we can be. So much of like, I think the work that we do in therapy and why I love talking about Kabbalah and how it can help you so much with your mental and spiritual well-being is that if we can unlearn those defense mechanisms by learning them, right? We have to learn where they come from.
It's beautiful, right? Unlearn by learning.
And especially talking, I think the ego develops, and we talk about this in Kabbalah too, but from very young childhood. If we can know which part of us is coming out, is it the 5-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 15-year-old, like who is trying to defend us right now, and actually teach them that we don't need that. The ego, like we don't need to save the ego. We need to focus on the soul. That will bring us this true kind of embodiment of who we were always meant to be. So I think that's super powerful. And I always ask this question on our podcast, which is, how do we cope? And how can Kabbalah help us cope?
If we look at the theme of our conversation today, which I think is really practical and also really inspiring, is to realize that there's a space for pain. It's not random. And from that pain, buried deep within it, is an energy of redemption, an energy of the other end of that challenge. It's a Kabbalistic truth that in the darkness, there is always a silver lining. We're just not always, we don't feel strong enough to brave the dark. And Kabbalah says, don't be afraid of the dark. Not don't be afraid of the dark because the light's always there. Don't be afraid of the dark. Don't be afraid of the dark because the light is in the dark. And so when we're going through something where we feel like, how do I cope? Instead of looking at the dark and say, this is something that I need to remove, you say to yourself, this is something that I need to embrace. This is something that I need to let do what it needs to do, so the next version of me can become revealed. And I'll give a practical example, because what does it mean to embrace the dark? Let's just say somebody's really, really busy and they feel like they have so much on their plate with everything going on in their life. And everything that's added to that person's plate feels like darkness. Let's say a person has 10 clients and they just got 5 referrals for 5 more people to join their client list. But 10 was their max. They have no time in the day. That's just barely working out, having time to meditate. Say it again.
I said, this is feeling personal. Go ahead.
For those that are in the role of helping other people, this is a big challenge that we go through. How do I navigate everything that's on my plate? And so let's just say there's more and more. And then my husband asked me for something, or my friends asked me for something, and I feel like I'm spread thin. Oftentimes we feel like the right things to do, the right thing to do is to say yes or to say no. No. What's the rule about no? No, I have my boundaries. I need to take care of myself. Yes, I'll show up for this person because it looks like they need it. That's, from a Kabbalistic perspective, that's so limited. There's another option between no and yes, is let the overwhelm break you. Let the overwhelm fumble a little bit, drop the ball, and say to the creator, I know that if you want me to take care of 15 people and I only have space for 10, that means that you need to give me a way to change the way that I do things. Maybe I'm not meant to have 1.5 hour meetings. Maybe they're meant to be an hour. But if I'm trying to figure out and say, no is boundaries, yes means I'm real sharing, right? Then we're not allowing space for the darkness to do what it's meant to do, which is to create a new way we operate with our clients, a new way we balance and navigate, work and home life. But if we feel like we have to have it all under control and we keep running away from the darkness and saying, I have too much on my plate, I can't say it, then we're never really becoming who we're meant to be, because it could be that all that darkness is not a punishment, because you see it as a blessing, more clients, more money, more opportunity to help people. But the blessing really is not about more money or more helping, because if you're sick one day and you help nobody, does that mean your day was a failure? Absolutely not. Your essence desires to help people. But the creator is saying, I need you to change the way you help people. I need you to change the way. I need you to redefine what it means to be a wife, redefine what it means to be a therapist, redefine. And those redefinitions allow space for us to become huge. But if we say no or yes based on boundaries or being a good person, we miss the magic.
Wow. Super, super powerful.
Can you relate?
Yeah. Oh my God, all the time. I mean, I'm always like, it's funny. Sometimes I won't have clients and then I'm like, not that I won't have clients. I won't have as many clients as I want. And I'm like, okay, like, where are they? And then they all come and I'm tired and my friends need me and I don't want to pick up the phone and my husband needs me and I'm tired. Like, there's so many. I actually feel like I'm in that space right now where I'm like, everyone feels like they need something from me. But again, I always have Kabbalah in the back of my mind where I'm like, it feels like something's about to break in a good way. And I think it's like what's that famous quote? It's always like, oh, diamonds come from more pressure, right? You can't make them without that. And I've had advice actually, even again from your brother that's been like, you need to put more pressure on things. And I was like, what? But I did. And it worked.
Crazy.
So and something that I want to kind of end on is with your challenges, you don't have to necessarily bring positivity. You have to bring meaning. And I think meaning is something that people get really lost and disconnected from. I think if we can bring meaning into challenges, again, taking away that randomness, we will feel more empowered in why whatever's happening is happening.
So it's a beautiful transition and a switch that I highly recommend for everybody listening is why me is random and ego. We've established that through our conversation. What's the alternative? And diamond through pressure. That's one step of it. But when we remember that there's actually a force that is putting us through the pressure, right? That's even one step further. It's not, oh, this challenge is coming to bring a blessing. No, this challenge was a part of a perfect plan to help me access another version of myself that has not existed before this challenge. So that quote has so much more meaning when we, put it in the context of what we just spoke about. So instead of why me, what do we ask? We say, if I know that this force that operates and drives our universe that only wants what's best for me is bringing this into my life, what is this coming to teach me?
Yeah.
How is this going to elevate me? So not why me, it's why is the creator, why is source, why is the universe sending this to me? And how is it going to help me to elevate to become who I'm meant to be? Very close questions. Why me? Why is it in my movie? Right? It's very close. One is attached to source. One is realizing that there's a plan in life. Yeah. One is realizing that on the other end of this is light. And I know that I have to hold space for me feeling that darkness right now in order to get to the other side. I can't run from it. I can't fix it. I can't put boundaries to it. I can't overthrow my energy at it. I need to just allow it.
Yeah, totally. David, how can people find you right now? What's the best way?
I just moved to Los Angeles.
Yes.
So I'm primarily on Instagram. That's where I'm posting content and posting about different events that I'm doing and different classes that I'm recording, and opportunities to connect on a one-on-one level. So if you just type in David Grundman, you'll find me, and it would be an awesome opportunity to connect with all of your listeners and really anybody that wants to take their study of Kabbalah to its next level or even just get started.
Awesome. We are so grateful to have you here. And I know my followers pretty well. We're going to want to get into way more subjects. I'm sure we'll revisit soulmates and so many other soul contracts that we have in our lives. So thank you so much for being with us.
It was a pleasure. And thank you so much for having us. And I loved how you weave your story because Kabbalah is not a teaching, it's life. And so when you share your story and how you use it to support people, it's really, really inspiring. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. All right. Woo.
Hey everyone, welcome to How We Cope Podcast, a podcast dedicated to elevating your life by your host, Nicole Nurian. This podcast is sponsored by Culver City Chevrolet, where you can lease a Chevy Equinox for $189 a month. Mention you're a subscriber of How We Cope Podcast to unlock the special deal.